Okay, we're ready to start out with our Connect exercises. And on this first one, it's going to be the easiest by far. Let's go through here. We're selling a bond for $3.4 million. Matures in 20 years, paying 9% interest semi-annually, twice a year. The reason this one is so easy is the bond is sold at par. That means we're selling it for face value. No discount. That means the market rate and the stated rate are the same. So the first question then is, how much interest do our bondholders get paid? And they go ahead and just put it into a nice little easy calculation for us here. So our bondholders are getting paid 9%, but that's the annual rate. And the question asks us, how much are they paid every 6 months? So if the annual rate is 9, the semi-annual rate is 4.5. So they're getting paid $153,000. Now I'm going to need that later on, so I'm going to go ahead and jot that down on a scrap sheet of paper here, $153,000, because I'm going to need that when I get to my journal entries. Okay, so here we are. Now we're ready to do the journal entries, record the issuance of the bond. Should be fairly easy. It's just like getting money for a note. When you sell a bond, what are you getting? You're getting cash. And when you sell it for face value, you're getting the full value, so $3.4 million. And then why did you get the $3.4 million? Because you issued bonds and have to pay them back. So bonds payable, $3.4 million. That's pretty simple. Now we record the entry, go to number 2 when we record the interest payments. With bond interest payments, they're always the same. So when you do the first interest in June 30th, when we get to December 31 on the third one, it's going to be identical. We pay the exact same amount. Remember that $153,000 that we wrote down. So we're simply just going to show that we had a bond interest expense, $153,000, and this is payment day. So I show that I paid cash, $153,000. And then finally, what it says, record the interest payment later on at the end of the year. Do that, it's no different. On interest expense, $153,000, and credit cash, $153,000. So those were pretty easy. The last section of this problem says, well, what if the bonds were sold at a little bit different? What if they were sold at 98 or at 102? Remember we talked about in the lecture that simply means percent. So if they sell at 98, they're selling for a discount. That means that my rate on the bond is lower than what the market is going to offer right now. So I have to sell it at a discount. So when I sell my bond at a discount, I'm going to debit my cash. And then I need to figure up using my calculator, what is 98% of 3.4 million? And it is 3,332,000. Then I'm going to show, I can't just leave that difference between the 3.4 and the 3,332. I've got to get that difference shown as a discount. How much of a discount am I providing to my bondholders? So let's just do the quick math here. It's going to come out a negative, but don't put in the negative. 68,000 is the amount of discount that I'm offering for them to want to buy my lower interest bond. They're going to pay me the 3.332 million. I'm going to pay them back the full 3.4 million. So they're getting an extra $68,000. Do the second part of this, record the issuance at 102. So when it's issued at 102, that means it's offered at a premium. So I'm going to take the 3.4 million and multiply it by 1.02. So therefore, instead of getting 3.4 million, I'm actually getting more. I'm getting 3.468. They're paying me that much. I only have to pay them back 3.4 million. So that's where the premium comes into play. The extra 68,000 that they're paying on top of what I'm going to pay them back because they want my higher interest. So I'm going to check the work on the last one. And there we go. Cash, bonds payable, premium as a credit. Notice up here the discount is as a debit. All right, let's go on to number 3. Number 3 is quite a bit more difficult. With number 3, we're going to have to actually calculate the value of the bond, and you don't want to use the charts that I provided to you just in our lecture. Those were for our lecture examples. These charts go out another decimal. They go out 4 places. The charts that I provided only go out 3, so you have to use these. And remember, as we did in our lecture, you only need the present value tables. You do not need the future value. So if I pull up this, this first one, it says present value of $1. That's one that I want. So I'm going to keep it. But if I pull up table number 2, it says future value of $1. For these bonds problem, I don't need that. Table 3, B3, it says present value of an annuity. Yes, I need that one because it's present value. And I'll just tell you on B4, it's the future value of the annuity. We don't need that one. So you just need the 2 of them, B1 and B3. Have those accessible because we're gonna need them. Now we've got this situation here. We've got an $800,000 bond. It says it matures in 10 years and pays 6% semi-annual payments. So like I did in my lecture examples, I'm going to come over here and I've already got it going. I'm going to put all of that into a nice little format that I can easily look at real quick and remember instead of having to always scroll back up and read through it. So it told us that the market rate was 8. I'm only paying 6% on the face value of the bond. So then there's 800,000 that the bond is worth. The bond is paying twice a year, and it's paying out over 10 years. Okay, so I've got everything I need here. This part we're going to calculate shortly, and you'll see how I got that. You could go ahead and do it. It's just I equals PRT, principal times rate. You always use the bond rate, times time, which is half a year because it's semi-annual. Or it has you do it right here in requirement number 1. Our value, 800,000, times the rate and time together, if you do it semi-annual. So that is, instead of 6, we cut it in half, it's 3, 24,000. So I went ahead and put that here because I'm going to need to know that later. This is what my bond is going to pay out every 6 months. Number of payments. Well, it's a 10-year bond paying twice a year, so that's 20 payments. And then when my bond is less than the market, that means I am selling it for a discount. Now we can go ahead and check the work, and if you have that option, sometimes you do as you're going through some of the examples, you might want to do that. Make sure you have everything right before you keep going because it's going to build. Now, on requirement number 4, it says actually compute the price of the bonds. That's the hardest part of doing bonds. So remember, N is how many payments do we have? How many interest payments are there going to be? Well, we just did that on the other one. There's 20. All right, so we've got 20 payments. The I is half, but remember I is always, this is the only time we use the market rate, is to get our I value for our charts. We don't want to put 8 because that's not the semi-annual rate. The semi-annual rate is half of that. We want to use 4 because that's how often remember our interest is paying semi-annual, so I want to do the market rate semi-annual. All right, so now we're ready to go to our charts. It says, okay, what's the table value using these, the X and Y axis for that first present value number of the lump sum, that par value. So I'm going to go up to my par value, my lump sum, present value of $1, Go to I is 20, or N is 20, I is 4, and we got 0.4564. So 0.4564. Then you may want to get back out your notes from what we were doing just to have, so you can have, this is step 1. Remember, you multiply times the base amount. Remember the base amount for my little example over here, 800,000. So that's telling me 800,000 today, or actually in 10 years, is really only worth this, 365. Now we're ready for the interest. And interest is not just a one-time payment, it's an annuity. It's a payment schedule set up every 6 months. So we want to use the annuity table, present value of an annuity. Same N, 20, same I, 4, and that comes out to be 13.5903. So 13.5903 multiplied by my interest. How much am I paying every year? And remember, we put that over here, or not every year, but every 6 months, 24,000. This is now what my bond is selling for. So you want to jot this down because we're going to need this in just a second. 691, 287. That is the present value of my bond. So when I go down to number 3, that's what my bond is going to sell for. Nobody's going to buy it for 800,000 because the market rate is, or my bond rate is so low. But they should be willing to pay 691,000, and that's what my selling price is going to be. They're going to get a huge discount because my interest rate is so low. So the discount, that hidden interest that we talked about in the lecture, let's go ahead and compute that. The face value of the bond minus what I sell it for, we're getting 108,713. And then I owe them in 10 years the full 800,000, even though they only paid me 691 today. Here's our leases. So this will be the last one we go through for this example. We sign a 5-year capital lease. And note the key term here is capital. Go back, remember we talked about this in the lecture notes. It's not an operating lease. This is one where we've actually are going to have the equipment for either A, most of its life, or B, for most of its the cost of it, the full value. We're making $10,000 annual lease payments. The present value, we could have figured that out, is 7%, based on 7%. If we would have went, and we could have done this with the charts, we could have taken 10,000 and then with them being 5 annual, so we would have had 5 at 7%. We'll see how close the book is with just rounding it to, I'm pretty sure they rounded it to 41, but we'll see. If we take 5 at the percentage, which was 7, 4.1002, and multiply that by 10,000, the interest payment or the annual payments. Well, they didn't round it by much. They only rounded it by $2. So the 41,000, that's how they got it. They just used the charts. And they rounded it by $2, but no big deal. So what we're going to do then is record the lease, record the depreciation. So with this being a capital lease, we're going to show that we are actually getting equipment, and we're getting it for not the full price that I'm paying, not 50, the present value of all of those payments, which is 41,000. And we're going to credit then the lease liability because it's not ours. We haven't paid for it. We're going to be making payments. We're going to be making more than 41,000 in payments. We're going to be paying 50, but that extra 9, that's going to be interest. So we're going to see how that works. Actually, we won't see how that works. They don't require us to do that, but we could have. We could have made that amortization table like how I did in the very last part of the lecture, where we took down the value of the note, the present value, and then just worked down and recorded some interest, some reduction of the note. The only thing it's asking us here is to go ahead and depreciate the item. We're going to depreciate this $41,000 based on the 5-year lease. So we're going to take 41,000 divided by 5. That's 8,200. So we're going to debit our depreciation expense by 8,200 and credit the accumulated depreciation for 8,200. Let's check the work.